Hello, this is Adam, and this is my platform, live videos platform in Facebook. And right now, I'm going to speak about, discuss about the system in Islam. The last video or the last chapter, we talked about the hellfire, and before that, we talked about the paradise, and we talked about the hellfire. And now, we are going to discuss about the system in Islam. The family in Islam, which is going to be the appeal of the Islamic family life. So the description also will be about the people of various walks of their speaks, and the just the ordinary life and how everything is going to be in Islam. So I'm going to speak about Islam because the last thing we talked about the hellfire, and we talked about the people of the hellfire, and we talked about their food, and we talked about their drink, and we talked about their wearing. What do they wear? What do they drink? What do they? How do they talk? Their conversation between the people of the hellfire, the conversation between the people of the hellfire and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the angels, the conversation between the angels and the people in the hellfire. How do they speak with the angel? How do the angels speak with those who are in the hellfire? And what do they eat? What do they drink? All these things we already discussed about it in the last video, in the last audio. And because the hellfire that which we discuss about it talks about many things. And also we talked about in about some evidence which is from the Quran, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shown us many various things which should be in the hellfire and in those people which are in the hellfire. So right now, in this quiet evening, in this great evening, I'm going to discuss with you about I'm going to discuss with you about the system in Islam. So in this evening, in this quiet day, in this great evening, we will be talked about the system in Islam from all the ways and from all the things which even prospectively will happen in a place. So system in Islam, that you see, in Islam, considering as the well-being, the others instead of just the self, is a various rooted in the original or in the religions that evidence even those outside it. The British humanitarian and civil rights lawyer, Civil Stafford Smith, the non-Muslim, stated that what I like about Islam is the focus of the group, which the people opposite to the West focus on individuality. Individual comprising, any society that are tied together by instead group bonds. The strongest of the associated or the social bonds that a family and that which is a family could take. And while it can be justifiably argued that the basic family unit is the foundations of any given human society, and this will hold particularly true for Muslims, as a matter of fact, that the great status of Islam offers, the greatest Islam offers, the system of the family, various thing that which is so often attacked, often attacks many new converts to Islam, particularly women. And with the law of the almost every aspects of life, Islam respect represented, you know, Islam represented the faith, both orders that women may see crucial crucial creating of the health of the family and their communication, and correcting also the sins, which is the damage done by the popular scholar humanitarian of the past 30 or so years. Several experts said that in addition to the women from broken homes maybe especially attacked in the religions because of the values and the place of the family, said in Marshall Humanitarians, and the professor of the Islamic Studies at Loyola University, Chicago, and an American who also converted Islam. Nevertheless, it is the people tend to people who value traditional families and their values and the embrace of Islam more prevalent than the North American or the Hispanic, community, which is has been has been in a community of the Hispanic, and as well as the Falajarians, Muslims observed. I have seen increasing rate of them converting to Islam, and I think that the Hispanic culture itself is very rich in terms of their family and their values, and in the something that which is very prominent to the religion of Islam. And so, what are the particular values or treaties of the Islamic family life that also many findings so appealing? This question is saying that Columbia University Islamic events, and an educational American, spoke of the cultural similarities and families' values inherits, and Hispanic and the Muslims, typically Hispanic households are the right knit and devout, which is and children are also reared to the strict environment and treats that mirror Muslims' bound laws. And and in another recent newspaper report, it was they observed of how family, the family values play an integral role of the information Muslims community. Because of these families' values are the loss of others' norms, that which is consistent within the Hispanic community and Islam. And for instance, reports which is elders, married life, and rearing children. These are some of the traditional Hispanic have in common with Islam. Some ordinary American converts, also have had a say about the real life experience, and some of those collected in a book by mother of such converts, Daughters of Another Pathy by Coral. One woman quoted in the book, which spoke about her change, and attitudes and towards marriage and family life, conversing in Islam. I become cleaner and quieter the farther I went into the religion. I become highly disciplined. It's saying that she is saying that when she's entered to Islam, when she's converted to Islam, and she's continued saying that I had not intended to many before I was Muslim, yet I quietly become a wife and then a mother. Islam has provided framework that which has allowed me to express myself, which is to express my belief and such, modesty, kindness and love, and I had already had. It has also led me to happiness through marriage and the birth of the children with two children. Before Islam, I had no desire that which my own family, since I hated, of the thoughts which of having kids. She has become extremely changed. And as we speak about the acceptance in the intended family in the same book, we were met an airport by a lot of his family, and it was very touching, touching moment. I can say that is another one who is forget, mama, her mother-in-law is like an angel, I have spent lots of time with the tears because I see her. The family system is quiet and unique with the cleanliness that we see beyond words. And also the appendix, which is saying about the books, is 35 years old American converts, which at the time 14 years Muslims, wrote about the family and her family husbands and their values, relatives, and their own American values. I have not met all members of the husband's immediate family, with some members of the immense extended family. I have learned that great deal with my family from the laws, and I have wonders about the wonderful of the relating to their children. And I had also engaged or endures respect and others, and great amounts of the system of source system and all of that. My in-laws, which is the virtues of the being, conscious American culture operates. My in-laws is the virtues of the American cultures, having given me great appreciations to certain elements of my American cultural identity. I have seen that Islam is truly correct in saying that the modernist is the right path. These are the women who she is saying this about when they are entering Islam, when they convert to the Islam. From the quotations which has been said with this woman's, which I have already said, this quotations, one of them from non-Muslims intellectual, other from the converts of the reports, and some of them quite ordinary American women who embrace Islam. And she said that the family values in Islam are one of the major attraction. And these values stem from the guidance through the Quran, and the examples of teaching his messengers, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and may mercy and blessings be upon him, who indicates that the family unite, as being one of the mainstays of the religions in Islamic and in the way of life. The importance of the forming, the family and this orders, by saying the life, the Prophet ﷺ, who said that when a woman marries and fulfilled her religion, so let him fear God regarding of the remaining half. This is said by the Prophet ﷺ. And the two articles which is discussed, which is the family of Islamic of the right crying and the prophetic teaching, through the briefly and the elders of the rearing of children, we can begin with appreciate with the benefits of Islam and the Muslims in Islam. Here's a question saying that how marriage is intertwined with faith and ethic, and morality, with evidence from the Islamic scriptures. Let's see the marriage. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is told about the Quran in the verse 30, saying that, and among these sins, among his sins, that he created you the mates from, among yourselves, that you may dwell with them sincerely and tranquility. And even has been loved on compensation between your hearts. Truly that is a sign of those who reflect. Marriage is one of the most ancient of the human social attitudes, social situations or institutions. And marriages also came into existence with the creations of the first man and woman, Adam and Eve, all the prophets, since we have sent examples for their communities. And very prophet of the first prophet and the last upheld of the institutions of the marriage is divinely sanctioned expressions of the here sexual compensations or companionship. Even today it is still considered more right and proper that couples introduce each other. What I can say also, even what I would say also, even my wife or my husband is saying, rather than my lover or my partner, in every kind of way. For that, you can say, Mary, that is men and women legal fulfill their carnal desire and their instinct of love, neediness and companionship, in intimacy and so on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran, is saying that in the second chapter, it's saying that they, your wives, O men, are the garment of you, and you are the garment of them. Over the course of the time, some groups have held extreme benefits about the opposite sex of sexuality. Women in particular, who were considered to be as many by the religious men, and so contract of the men of them are kept in the momentum. And even I can say that the menstruations with the lifetime and avancement, and celibacy, was also invented to those who wanted what they wronged to be the pious and alternative to marriage and the life is God. Also we can, in addition to that, the only family that monks would know, Christians and otherwise, would be their followers, monks, and monastery, a temple, or a temple in the case of the Christianity, not only men but a woman also. They could attain the situations that has been led by a great number on social vices such as child abuse, homosexuality, and illegitimate sexual relations actually occurring among the people, of all that which is considered actual criminal sin. Those Muslims heretics who have followed the non-Muslims practices of intentions of the hermitage. In addition to that, we can also say that the Prophet ﷺ, in his own lifetime, made clear feelings and suggestions that marriage could be an obstacle to drawing closer to the God. Once a man owed that the Prophet ﷺ, he would have nothing to do with men, he had nothing to do with women sides, and so that is to say never marry. He's saying that he will never marry. The Prophet ﷺ respond by sternly declaring that, by God, I'm the most God-fearing amongst you, yet I marry whenever I turn away from my sunnah. Whoever is turned away from my sunnah in inspired way is not from me. The Prophet ﷺ saying that. And he said also, the Prophet ﷺ say to the people, O Muhammad, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also quotes us in the Holy Quran, in the chapter, in the third chapter, in the verse 31. Is quoting us, is saying that, O you people, say to people, O Muhammad, if you love God and then follow me, God will then love you and forgive you of your sin, and God will forgiving, most merciful. God often forgiving and most merciful. In reality, the far from the viewing marriage and as bad as one phase, Muslims marriage and to be the integral part of their religious devotion, as mentioned before, the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam expressing, stated that the marriage is half of the religion of Islam. In other words, perhaps half of all Islamic virtues such as fidelity, uh, chastity, charity, generosity, tolerance, gentleness, and striving, patience, love, empathy, compassion, and caring, learning, teaching, reliability, courage, mercy, forbearance, forgiveness, etc. All these kinds of things which is associated with Islam and with the Muslim. And also finally the natural expressions through marriage life. Hence in Islam, God conscience and good character is supposed to be one of the principles, which is criteria that suppose look for in the prospective marriage partner. The Prophet ﷺ also said that in Sahih al-Bukhari, which is a woman is made from one of the four reasons, her wealth and her status, her beauty and her religion devotion. So marry the righteous woman, else be a loser. Also undoubtedly the social militia or the social militia and design or social militia and decay that they prevalent in many parts of the non-Islamic world also find expressions in some parts of the world or in some parts of the Muslim world as well. Nevertheless, the proficiency or the prominency of for prominency and adultery are all still round condemned through Islamic societies and having yet to be decriminalization, to be decriminalized in the level of the merely fooling around. Also, ironically, we can say that while it is unmarried women and perhaps suffer from the radical or suffer from the consequences of prominence and relations, some of the more radical voices voices of the feminism movement are called, which is about abolition of the speaking or abolition of the institution of marriage. Shelley Cronin of the movement now is speaking from the blinker perspective of the fringe feminism whole society, which is reeling from the failure of the traditional Western marriage to grant women security, protecting the protections of the social, of the sexual transmitted, which is disease and many other problems and abuses, which is pointed out by the constitutions, slavery from women and the clear, from women's movement, which is considerate and is attacking in these institutions. Freedom for women cannot be won without the abolition of marriage. Marriage also in Islam, however, is another, rather than becoming according to the Islam in some of itself vital and securing freedom of women. A great example of the reflect Islamic marriage exists in the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us about it. The best of you, or those who are best, treat with their women, and I am best of the people to the woman. The Prophet ﷺ beloved wife Aisha, which is attached to the freedom her husband's treatment is afforded in when she said that he's always joined me in the housework, and he would at the time mend his clothes, repair her shoes, and weep her flour, and would milk pets and feeds animals, and do household chores, all of these things which is mentioned by Aisha. Let me give the pretending, which is the description. A short tip of the comprehensive guide to the good parenting as a taught by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by God and His Prophet, briefly explores her in the reasons why Muslims follow such guidance. Pretending. One of the reasons which Islamic Muslims or which Islamic family work because of clearly defined structures where the members of the household knows his or her role. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu said that each of you is a shepherd, and all of you are responsible for your flocks. All of us are shepherd, and all of us is responsible for his or her flocks. The father of the shepherd over his family, protecting them, providing them, and striving them, and feeding them, and ruling them, and keeping them alive. All of these things, in their moral, and the guide in his capacity as head of the household. The mother also is the shepherd over her house, guarding and is engendering with a whole some loving environment, and that which is necessary for a happy and wealthy family life. She is also one who primarily responsible for her children's guidance and education. We were not far fact that one of the partners assumed that leadership role, the inevitable which where we would be separated disputation, disputation with the fighting, leading family breakdown just as a whole, breakdown in the whole, and things which is you can say just that would be in any organizations which lacked any single hierarchical authority. Let me give me another question which is concerning about this. In fact, it's quite common here that the elderly non-Muslims converting Islam as a result of the increased care and dutifulness which his children gave them following their children becoming Muslims. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, say, O Muhammad, come and I recite what your Lord has prohibited you from, and join not anything in worship with him. Be good and dutiful to your partners. Kill not your children because poverty, not to provide also the sustenance and one of them, and none of them. You don't have to kill none of them. While the child obliged to show obedience to both partners, to both parents, Islam singles out the mother as being one of the lion's share with loving gratitude and kindness. When the Prophet ﷺ was asked, O Messenger of God, who from amongst mankind wants the best companionship from me? He replied, your mother. The man was asked again, who then? Or then who? The Prophet ﷺ also said, your mother. The man was asked for the third time, then who? The Prophet ﷺ was repeated, your mother. Again, the man was asked, then who? Then the Prophet ﷺ said, then your father. You see? And if you come to the conclusion that we can say there exist in Islam general principles that is stated in what is good, one of the good for another, and what is worse. In the words of the Prophet ﷺ, none of you truly believe until he love for believing, brothers what he loves himself. And this is it's in the hadith which is Sahih al-Bukhari. And as we could expect from the principles that which generals expressions in the Muslims family, we can also see the nucleus of the Islamic society. Nevertheless, in the dutifulness of the child and the parents in Islam, extended to all the elders of the community, and the mercy of the concerns, which is that the partners of the parents have their children's, is likewise or otherwise, which is extended to the young ones. Actually, it is not us Muslims which has choice to such kind of matters. After all, Prophet ﷺ said that who does not show compassion to the young nor honor the elders, it is not from us. It is any wonder that you can say that then that is so many people raised non-Muslims find what is looking for and what they will always believed to have been good or true, religions of Islam. Religions where all the immediate and warming welcomed members of loving people or loving family that we could consider and that we could say. And I can, which is conclude my speech of the system is known here, and there will be another part which we can discuss about it later. But right now, which we could conclude our speech or our topic in Islam, the system in Islam, and you have to know what is the system in Islam. What talks about it, as we Muslims, we have to look about the Islam, and we have to look about the system of Islam, and we have to look about all the good sides which is the Prophet ﷺ told us about it. We have to be careful. We have to be care about these things. And there will be also the cohesive nature of the Islamic family, which is going to be later on. It will be discussed about the cohesive of the family, because right now we talked about the which is we talked about the system in Islam, which is all these things will include in about all this the system in Islam. We talked about the people, in the description outside. I told you that people in various walks of life speak on their view of the family life in Islam. And that will be the end of my discussion. And then I'm going to start in any kind or in another time, which will be about the system in Islam.